Hi there, and welcome to another live. Richard Smith was in the room, but I think he's been kicked out by his Wi-Fi, so we'll get him in a second. Let's just have a look. He's hopefully going to come back in. Guest destination from Rich, the Keto Pro. An error occurred with your guest destination. We inform them so they can fix it. Right, okay. Right, here we are. It's 7 o'clock in state-controlled Britain. People might ask why I say that. Well, I say that because it is a two-tier system here in Britain. It's terrible at the moment. And if you just want to look at what's happening, the judiciary, there's 3 big trials for all different things that happened at different times in different places in the UK. And they're all going to happen on the 20th of January because, you know, they are sort of political hot potatoes. And the 20th of January for all these 3 trials happens to coincide with the inauguration of Donald Trump. So they're hiding this news, and that's the sort of thing anyway. I was just filling in for a little bit there, but hi, Richard, you're here, the UK's top nutritionist. Hello.
Hello. I was here, and then I clicked something, and I wasn't. Now I'm back again.
Yes, you see, a state-controlled Britain, they don't want you to be here. And it leads me on to actually getting straight into the questions, getting straight in, because we've got Zinc, who we met. By the way, if you put QQQ in front of your question, it gets spotted easier. And if you put a super chat, then you get priority. So that's great. Zinc 316. Hi, both. Hope you're both doing well. It was nice to meet you at the Healing Humanity and to be among like-minded people. Yesterday, it was my birthday, and I was in conversation with friends about my cholesterol levels when trying to talk to them about research, etc. They laughed it all off and almost branded me a conspiracy theorist. How do you deal with the amount of pushback? Now, as I was saying to Richard before I started, tomorrow I'm going to release a PDF, and if Richard's okay, can I just screen share? Do you mind, mate?
Go for it.
Okay, right, because I have this all the time, so I put all this in one place, and it's a PDF, and it will talk about statins, it will talk about cholesterol, it will talk about studies, 73 pages. It is written in a nice way, so it talks about my family and how it sort of first affected my family, which is what most people say. Then there's a little history lesson, for instance, in 1913. It all started with force-feeding rabbits. Force-feeding rabbits cholesterol, yeah, and that was able to produce plaques in the rabbits, which is obviously a great thing to do, because you know, if you feed a lion grass or you feed a cow some steak, what's the outcome's going to be? I don't think they're going to be very healthy. But you know, anyway, so you know, 1913 we were feeding rabbits, force feeding them as well, cholesterol, and then I've got a little history about how by the 1950s how companies were trying to develop statins, and then about the side effects, you know, like hair loss, skin inflammation, accelerated progression of plaques, which was, you know, the whole thing. All of these, by the way, would be clickable links. And then all the other things like animal studies, 44 rats. The only survivor was 1, so 43 died. But they carried on, even though they had a $50 million lawsuit. Again, all of this is all matter of record. So yes, 1,500 civil lawsuits suits were filed for injury by this drug. So then we go into a little bit later on, 1976. And again, we find that these drugs were causing big problems. Half the dogs they tested were getting intestinal lymphoma and cancers and all this sort of stuff. Wow. 2005 we get into, we find that, well, sorry, I've jumped ahead. 2001, Bayer, despite trying to hide this, billions of dollars in lawsuits arising from the harms caused by a statin. Again, public record, so your friends can see this. This is a pharmaceutical company that's got a track record. You know, this was only 4 years ago, paying out 15 billion to settle that case. Here we are, the Office of Public Affairs, US Department of Justice, talking about them because they're receiving kickbacks and making false statements relating to drugs. And then we get into the side effects, and we talk about all the different side effects, symptoms resembling dementia. We got a study about that. Osteoporosis, got a study about that. Erectile dysfunction, study about that. Diabetes, a 71% greater risk of getting diabetes. We've got a study about that. This is going to be free, this PDF, by the way. A lot of work put into this. Side effects, this is actually from Lipitor's own patient information leaflet, Cresta's own website. So this is from the actual manufacturers. Then there's problems with over 70s having these recommendations because they shouldn't really be recommended for people over 70. That's in the patient information leaflet. We've got Rory Collins of the Oxford University, who claims that there's not many side effects from statins, and yet he's patented a special thing, a test designed to identify patients susceptible to side effects of statins. That patent, trying to sell that to people online, was saying that the side effects are 29%, so a little bit of a strange conflict of interest. And I go through all the different people and all the different fines and how they get funding, so it's all a bit dubious. I go through loads and loads of studies here, how they exclude trials. They actually write it in a meta-analysis. After excluding 4 trials in which statin therapy did not demonstrate effectiveness, they then did a meta-analysis of how effective statins are, 2016. More precautions in patient information leaflets. Talking to ChatGPT, I'll show you how they say things like, I was wrong to cherry pick data and create a narrative that wasn't supported by the actual numbers. So even ChatGPT does what we tell you. Everyone does. They interpret the data how they want to. So there's examples of that. This is actual studies. This line here is showing you whether these things are effective or not. And the line, if it goes over the middle line here, the hard line, if it crosses that, it means it's not really effective. So this is statins for 55 to 60, not really effective. 70 to 75, not really effective. 75 and up, not really effective. Constantly this happens. Don't forget, this is the best they can come up with, even though 4 trials are excluded. And I explain that table so people can read that, a little bit more about ChatGPT and statins. And I know we're talking about statins, but then I'm going to flick through because there's loads of research. Do statins extend lifespan? Well, yeah, it looks like by 4 days. Even with all those side effects, it might make you live longer by 4 days, which is really great. Then we talk about the Jupiter trial, which is a really big trial, and what's wrong with that, which there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things. Statins adversely affect cognition and worsen dementia. And this is studies where people started to get very forgetful, and they were on a statin. They took the statin away, and Alzheimer's and dementia disappeared. They put them back on statins, and it came back. They call that re-challenge of statins. A kidney disease with them, musculoskeletal conditions, lowering testosterone, erectile dysfunction, ALS. That's pretty frightening, actually. Then I tell you how reporting odds ratio is worked out, and how much these things are so bad to cause you problems. You know, this statin is 17 times more likely to cause you an issue than to actually fix you. So it's quite good. Then I talk about relative and absolute risk. Again, trying to keep it in real world examples. If a drug ad says 44% reduction in heart attacks, this could mean going from 2.7 to 1.5 people per 100. You know, it's not really a big thing. And I show you what 44% reduction is. There's placebo, there's statin use. I'll show you what it looks like on an actual graph. It doesn't really look very good, does it? And don't forget, these are from studies that have deliberately left out ones that don't show good results. This is the best they can come up with. Then I go into CAC scores and how statins don't help anybody with a 0 CAC score. And then number needed to treat compared to number needed to harm. So that's explained. And it shows you that with one of the statins, for instance, you have to treat 217 people for one person to get some benefit, but only 21 will get some muscle damage. So 1 in 21 get a side effect, and 1 in 217. And then I get into some paradoxes, which make you think differently about cholesterol. If cholesterol is really bad for you, then why do people, as they get old, have lower levels of cholesterol? Why do they die more frequently? The Japanese paradox, the French paradox, there's loads and loads of different things. Gender puzzle, and I put some nice analogies into there. And literally, I just go through what really causes problem. High cholesterol, right? So it's still 1 death per person. Doesn't really mean anything. High cholesterol, high LDL doesn't really mean as much as high blood pressure. High insulin, look at that, nearly 7 times as much as the other 2 or other 3. So there's loads of things here, loads of studies. You can click on all the studies, and then we get into pretty much proof that it isn't cholesterol that's causing a problem. CAC scores. I'm nearly finished, Richard. This is quite an interesting graph. This is like white men, European men, white women, European, and this is CAC scores as they get older, going up to 1,600, even in men up to 4,000. And then this is a different indigenous population. They don't have coronary artery calcium scans that go up to sort of thousands. They're barely in the hundreds, some of them. Much less. Look at that, much less. The men here, much, much less than over here. What's the difference? Do these have really high levels of cholesterol? No. The only difference between this one and this one is high insulin. The only difference between the women here and here is high insulin. It's nothing to do with cholesterol. That's a game changer, really. So insulin is the most likely issue. Hundreds of studies that prove that association. Is low LDL a problem? Yes, there's lots of things saying that low LDL is a problem. Loads and loads and loads and loads of studies. One for Richard there. Malate pathway talks about that. I've actually done some nice graphics of that pathway, and there's just hundreds of things. These are actually the side effects from the manufacturers, from their own studies, saying exactly what you said. Is low HDL a predictive factor? Well, look, this is risk of heart disease after 4 years. This is increasing LDL bad cholesterol. If it increases, look, it doesn't do anything much. But if you add in decreasing HDL, that's the problem. If you've got low HDL and high LDL, it's a problem. But if you've got if you've got high HDL and high LDL, it's not a problem. So this is it. Clinical trials. Why are all the statin trials that are put out there all before 2003? That's because in 2003 there was a huge court case where a drug company were found to be lying about everything. This happens time and time again. They actually caused the death of, I think, about 34,000 people. It was absolutely proven in court. 88,000 Americans had heart attacks from taking this drug, and 38,000 of them died. And that was just too much. You couldn't hide it. It was in the Lancet. And so after that, they changed all of the reporting, and that's why the studies now are so different. If you give this PDF to somebody, like I say, I'm going to give it out for free. Just basically, there are just so many lawsuits over these types of drugs and over these types of claims. So at the end of it, I ask you, do you still want to take a statin? Do you feel that you trust the pharmaceutical business? Do you have full trust in the mainstream media? And have you any more questions, you can always email me. So, right. That I'm going to stop that now. Sorry about that, Richard. Very long. But I just wanted to say, if you want lots and lots of information, it's there. It's there. And I'll send that out on the school community. They'll get first dibs. But just email me if you want that. How was that?
Fantastic. Loved it. Look forward to that.
Yeah. I've spent a whole 7 days just doing that. So I'm going to put some nice graphics in as well. Oh, there was one other thing, by the way. You can go on what's called the Q risk calculator. Can I just share that one last thing, Richard?
Go for it. Fire away.
Yep, right. This is pretty nailed on as well. This is backed by the NHS. The NHS use this. This is looking at your risk of a heart attack within the next 10 years. This person's got high cholesterol of 8, 309 milligrams per deciliter, LDL 5, 193 milligrams per deciliter. But they don't have diabetes. Their chances of having a heart attack are 3.1%. If we just change this one thing, and this, like I say, this is on the NHS, they recommend using this calculator. Ready? It's 3.1%. If you only change that they haven't got diabetes to diabetes, it doubles your risk of a heart attack. So high blood glucose, which of course comes with high insulin, is the thing that seems to be the big problem. Right, that's me. If you really love the mainstream media, I do apologise. You're not going to like that PDF. Right, let's get Richard involved. Gaza, hi chaps. I want to upgrade my brain. Where to start to understand the Krebs cycle, beginning at talk to me like I'm 5 level. Greetings from Greetland.
Yeah, fantastic. Those PDFs are fantastic as well, Steve. Yeah, send those through to me. Look forward to looking through those. I mean, that is an ideal armory, if you like, of information to pass on to anyone who is worried about cholesterol. Just circling back to the original question that Zinc put in, and fantastic to meet Zinc 316 at Healing Humanity. Real nice guy. Yeah, I've tried to switch off from negative comments. I think there are people who are lions and people who are sheep, should we say. There's the enlightened and the unenlightened. The people who are still in the dark, the people who are narrow-minded and can't see what's right in front of them. And for an example, if we visit a doctor and they give us health advice on diet and nutrition, but they are 3 times our size, then common sense would tell us not to listen to that person. But we don't. All logic seems to go out the window when it comes to someone within the medical community. Cholesterol is essential for life. We can't live without it. It's essential for many processes within the body. It's essential for cell formation, cell communication, nutrient absorption, nutrient transportation, the production of hormones, and it's essential for healing. It's something we cannot live without. It does not clog your arteries, and it's not the cause of cardiovascular disease. It baffles me. You know, we've known this for quite some time within our community, and it still baffles me when someone mentions about cholesterol being a problem. It's like, I didn't realize those people still existed, you know, and I know this sounds stupid because we operate within our community and, you know, we're all enlightened, if you like, but it still baffles me when someone asks questions like this, because I didn't think there was people still out there who still believed that cholesterol was the problem. Anyway, on to the next. So what are we? We're looking at the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle. Explain as a 5-year-old. So it's part of the process that yeah, this is going to be difficult. It's part of the process of creating ATP, adenosine triphosphate, or energy, if you like. It takes place in the mitochondria within the cell, and it all begins with acetyl-CoA. So whether we consume carbohydrates or whether we are ketogenic and carnivore and we consume lots of animal proteins or fatty acids, acetyl-CoA is the substrate that enters this and allows us to create ATP. The acetyl-CoA will bind, if you like, to another molecule called oxaloacetate to form citrate, and then the citrate will further break down into NADH and FADH2, and this will go on to create ATP later further in the electron transport chain. So I don't know how we can make it any more simple than that. There's a lot more to it in regards to the electron transport chain. Creating energy can become incredibly complex, but it's all to do with consuming a substrate, if you like, or nutrients to allow us to create ATP. But yeah, that's it in basic terms. I think that's as simple, I think, as we can make it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Krebs cycle people talk about, but that's the bottom line. You're putting something in. Acetyl-CoA is something coenzyme A, and at the other end you get some energy out, and along the way some other bits popped out. That's basically it.
Just
NADH,
to add, and it can become incredibly complex. What I would add to this is that glucose is essential. We do need glucose. There are cells in the body that need glucose, so we can't live without glucose, but we make all of the glucose that we need via gluconeogenesis, which basically means that we create glucose via non-glucose substrates such as proteins and fatty acids. But in order to do this, we need oxaloacetate. So during the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle, this stops turning. This is what allows us to create ketones because we need the oxaloacetate to make glucose. So the Krebs cycle stops turning, and the acetyl-CoA will build up, and this then will go on to enter HMG-CoA, which further goes on to create ketones. So it becomes incredibly complex, if you like, but it's fun. It's the stuff we love.
Yeah. A super chat. I don't know whose channel gets this, but anyway, question. Good evening. What is your opinion with Cirule products that Bart K talks about? Being carnivore for 10 months, down 60 pounds, trying to fix lower back pain. I'm a lower back pain specialist, by the way. One of my things when I did rehab 15 years ago, started there, and Carnivore is great for that. Full transparency, I take it. I take the Stem Enhance, and also have a link if you want to have a look at that. What does it do? The trials show that it increases the amount of adult stem cells that are released from the bone marrow and into your bloodstream. So I've actually taken it, and I've also stopped taking it, and then I've put it back in. So I've done an interventional sort of experiment on myself and felt better. My wife takes it. It's got rid of pains in her hands. For me, it was sort of like the icing on the cake, or the butter on the steak, I should say. I don't push it very much. I just wait until people ask about it, because it's there if you want it. I think today is the last day when they're doing a buy one, get one free. So if you use that link, you'll get it half price. In a way, because you'll be able to buy two tubs of it. I did that as well, so I took advantage of the bog off, as they say. If you're in Canada, I think it's difficult to get, but apart from that, it's really good. And Bart, because he's one of the big influencers in their system, I mean, I'd like you to use my link because it helps me a little bit. He's got enough sway to get them to do a carnivore version of it, a complete carnivore version. So what's going to happen is in New Zealand, they are going to get a pure stem enhance thing which is like a scoop, like Richard's electrolytes. There's nothing sort of plant-based or cellulose-based about any of it. But to be honest, I get such a benefit from it. I'm quite happy to take it. So thanks for the super chat. I don't know if it goes to Richard or if it goes to me, but anyway, that's that. So we've done the Krebs cycle. We've got another nice question from Paul. Can I ask you, should I take taurine supplements to help with my tinnitus, or is meat enough?
Is meat enough is the question. If you eat a meat, Paul, and your tinnitus is gone away, then there's no requirement for the taurine. I eat quite a lot of meat. I eat well over 1 kilogram a day. I no longer supplement with taurine. I used to for pre-workout purposes, but if you feel that the tinnitus is still there, then try supplementing with a little taurine a couple of times throughout the day. Keep the dosage smaller and more frequent, and let us know how you get on. When we were at the Healing Humanity event, one of the speakers there, Lauren, mentioned that she used to suffer with tinnitus. It's something I used to suffer with a long time ago. But never to a detrimental degree. It was always something that was in the background, a ringing in my ears, if you like, but something I no longer suffer with at all anymore, and something you used to suffer severely with, Steve, which has now been completely eradicated from living the carnivore lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. It's going to sound like I'm the center of attention tonight, and I don't really want to be, but yeah, my hearing was really bad. As people know, I'm deaf, I lip read, I have captions on super big sound here to try and make life really easy for me. Been wearing hearing aids since I was 23. I'm 60 now, and all that time I had tinnitus, or tinnitus, if you want to make the Americans happy, because I think that's how they pronounce it. And then it wasn't that long ago when I was out in a field, and it was just, now this is where the full transparency comes in. I put it down to carnivore. It may have been a little bit helped by Stem Enhance. I don't know. You can't really prove that, but I definitely say carnivore. And I just all of a sudden realized, said to my wife, I can't believe it. Can you hear that? And she's like, oh, what? There's nothing. I said, yeah, I know. I can't hear anything, because I was used to, and Richard laughed at me about a couple of weeks ago when I did the noise. I used to hear all the time. It was horrendous. I had noises Yeah, can't hear him. And it's gone. But I'm not the only one. When I've gone public about this, I then get comments on YouTube saying, I saw that video, heard you mention that, and that's happened to me as well. Now, I have heard that taurine has helped many people. I saw Jonathan's in the room. I know Jonathan knows a lot about taurine, and he's a big fan of taurine as a supplement. That's carnivore muscle. I think it is a really good supplement. I don't feel I need it because I think I probably am getting enough taurine from the diet. So that's why I don't supplement with it. But I also understand why some people do, because they feel they need that extra boost. Gaza is just backing that up, actually. Paul, it helped me in that respect. Tadalafil gives me tinnitus. Taurine gets rid of it. Right. So there we go. Fantastic. Shall we go to the next question?
Let's fire away.
Yeah. This is from Ed. Hello, Ed. Hi, guys. Been waiting for this. Your opinions on allergies and carnivore.
Yeah, fantastic question. Most allergies I find come from the plant kingdom. So when we gravitate into a carnivore lifestyle, most of these seem to be eradicated. The ones that people still suffer with tend to be things like histamine intolerance through aged meats or ground beef or mincemeat can still cause problems. But generally, allergies and everything else seem to clear up extensively. If we look at most of the conditions that we suffer with in regards to health and well-being, a lot of them come from intestinal permeability, which come from plant compounds such as lectins and phytic acids and other compounds will bind to the enterocytes lining the gut, and they basically poke holes in the lining of the gut. In simple terms, I'm trying to explain things a lot more simply. I did a consultation this week, and by a very good client of mine, and a real nice guy. And he said, the science is fantastic, but you need to simplify things, because the second you start talking about certain pathways, I just switch off. So I don't want people to switch off. Plant compounds are detrimental. They're anti-nutrients, and they poke holes in the gut. They lower the immune system and leave us more susceptible to other pathogens and so on and so forth. So living a carnivore lifestyle in many cases seems to eradicate most of these things. It does take time. Some of us seem to eradicate most of these issues in a few months. But as Stephen and I have mentioned numerous times previously, this can take as long as 6 to 12 months. So stick with it. The stricter you can be, the more benefit that you're going to see. But I do believe that this is achieved via incremental changes at best. So, I mean, you can gravitate straight into a strict carnivore lifestyle. But many of the people that I work with who tend to do this tend to struggle and suffer with lots of detox problems. So I do believe an incremental approach can be more beneficial. The creme de la creme is the beef and lamb, grass-fed beef and lamb. Some people do suffer with tolerances to pork and eggs and chicken. I still consume all of these things, although I do eat pork and chicken maybe once a week. Beef and lamb predominantly, and everything else as and when I see fit. But for sure, it's gravitate into this lifestyle, and you'll find that all of these things tend to either improve greatly or completely vanish.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, don't lose the science completely, Rich, because people tune in for the science. I think the thing is, I mean, like I said with the statins thing, the studies are there, but that's got a lot of science in it. But also, I think I give people analogies and then say, right, okay, absolute risk versus relative risk. What does that actually mean? And then add a bit more science. You do it perfectly. You do. Just don't worry about it. I mean, people like it. But anyway, right. I'll just talk about my allergies, because I see the questions coming up, so I know I'm going to have to talk about stuff because it matters. I mean, I was hospitalized before I got to age 53 times with allergies, twice from eating fish, which I didn't realize was in the ingredients, which is an argument or a discussion for another day. And I had terrible hay fever. I had to wear sunglasses all the time, very sun sensitive, all of that sort of stuff. And when I went low carb, everything started to improve. When I went keto, which was after 3 years of low carb, I did a two-year stint on keto, and I got to age 55 and I went carnivore, and all the allergies just went away. Honestly, it's incredible. I can't believe the difference. That does not mean you're immune to it. And like Richard said, it takes a time to get rid of them. Maybe I was really lucky, or maybe my allergies were so bad, just getting that instant relief. But things like, now this isn't an allergy, but it's analogous. It's a similar thing. For 40, 50 years, I had athlete's foot, and I did everything to get rid of athlete's foot. All the mainstream things, powder in my socks, powder in my trainers, duct tape, acid, all of these things to get rid of athlete's foot, really drying between your toes, using a hairdryer between your toes, all complete BS, all complete BS. Soon as I went low carb, it just went. Literally, I'm not even careful when I get out of the shower. I just walk around and my feet just dry naturally. I don't go mad. I don't use hair dryers and stuff like that. And wow, they've all gone. So that's that. Right. Okay. Next one is a really interesting question. Well, they all are actually. This is from Stu. I primarily eat meat, but no organ meats. Should I worry about my calcium intake? I always use that analogy of lions and lionesses and cubs. They don't take calcium supplements, and they seem to be able to produce milk, and their bones seem to be really good, and yet they eat just muscle meat. But where do they get their calcium from? Well, they eat muscle meat, and they can produce milk, and their bones are pretty strong. So if you look in nature, there's no worrying about the lack of calcium. Calcium is really tightly regulated, and I always use that analogy. But Richard, you dive in and put some science on the table.
No, fantastic. It's, we're told from a young age that we need lots of calcium for strong teeth and bones. But there are some caveats to this. So calcium, we need K2, which we get from animal proteins, and we know about this. But also to heal and repair and build bone, we need a number of other things. We need calcium, we need phosphate, we need sodium, and we need protein. So those are the 4 things that we can't build bone without. And in fact, calcium absorption is directly sent to the bone via sodium. So we need sodium. Studies have shown that we can reverse osteoporosis in people aged over 65 with severe osteoporosis with increasing just animal proteins, because animal proteins contain everything that we need. Calcium is incredibly important. It's found in 99% of the cells within the human body. So it's critically important, but the amount we need in most cases is a lot less than we're led to believe. And we also need it at around an equal ratio to magnesium. So if we are to consume, calcium supplements, then it could be problematic potentially, because now we're offsetting the ratio of calcium to magnesium, which is why we cramp, by the way. So it's calcium is excitatory to the muscle, and magnesium calms the muscle. So we need this this ratio. But plenty of calcium can be found in all animal proteins. If we are living a carnivore lifestyle and we do eat eggs are very, very high in calcium, around 24, 25 milligrams per 100 grams. Or are they per egg? Actually, I can't remember, but it's incredibly high. I'm sure it's per egg. Very, very high in calcium. But animal proteins, muscle meats, plenty of calcium. We don't need to supplement with that. We certainly don't need to be drinking A2 dairy, which I'm not against, but we get plenty from the animal proteins. We don't need to be consuming the organ meats for this. There are reasons to consume the organ meats, which we can get into later if we have a bit of time. But you're not going to be short of calcium, magnesium, potassium, or sodium if you eat adequate amounts of muscle meat, providing your requirement isn't going to be excessively high. If you work out and train a lot, then you may require additional supplementation of 1 or 2 of those electrolytes. But yeah, generally we can thrive. There are ways you can get it from nature also. So you can eat the connective tissue on the bone. So when you get your meat, the connective tissue is very high in collagen and electrolytes. The knuckles on the bones, the bone marrow. So if and when I eat chicken, I eat the knuckles on the bone. I eat the soft bones also. You can make bone broth. You can buy bone broth. You can crush the bones yourself. You can drink blood if you wanted to. Fantastic source of electrolytes. I don't drink blood, by the way, although I do cook my meat very lightly. I like my food rare. Sometimes I'll eat it raw. But I'm not a fan of raw eggs, I'll be honest, because the avidin found within that can be problematic. But yeah, that's probably a talk for another day, raw meat. But plenty of calcium.
I nearly had my Rocky poster up under my medals today, because that's when I first ever tried raw eggs. Because I think in the first Rocky movie, he has 3 or 4 eggs and he just gulps them down. But I actually quite enjoy them, and also have them in coffee every so often. Right. Just a little bit of feedback, no pun intended, because we're talking about tinnitus. Lee saying, suffered with really bad tinnitus for decades due to loud machinery, jobs, and loud music. Now, after 8 months, Carnivore, ringing in my ears is almost gone. And I don't really get a chance to put all the comments up because we get so many questions, but it's really nice. I read your comments, so those people that are supporting the things we're saying or giving us feedback is great. Other people can see them as well, so that's fabulous. Right, Gemma, big supporter of the show, which is time to sort of plug the fact that you can give us super chats. It really does help the channel. We're not here next Sunday because of Christmas, so let's put the begging bowl out now. If you want to do a super chat and support us and wish us happy Christmas, that'd be really great. Other than that, here we go with Gemma's question. Is it okay to use citrulline malate daily, or should it only really be used on days when taking part in exercise? Thanks. The citrulline is part of the urea cycle, isn't it? It gets rid of ammonia. So I think that's partly how that helps. But we've got an expert in the room about supplements, so I'm going to hand over to Richard on that one.
Yeah, brilliant question, Gemma. Fantastic effort in the local High Rocks comp as well. I think you may have been there the day after I was there, but yeah, I've seen your post on social, so fantastic. Citrulline, I take it every day. So I've got electrolytes in there. I've added some citrulline to it. Citrulline malate or citrulline base. You can also get, which is the raw form of citrulline that isn't bound to the malate. Generally, they're bound in a 2-to-1 ratio. But citrulline is a potent vasodilator, so it's directly correlated with longevity and athletic performance, which I'm guessing is why that's the reason Gemma's using it. I find it's fantastic for me in regards to my migraines. So for anyone who is a long-term supporter of the channel, you'll know that I used to suffer with severe daily debilitating migraines that would make me blind, for which I was on 3 different medications for. Gravitated into a ketogenic and now carnivore way of living has seen me become medication-free, amongst many other things. But I still suffer with migraines a few times per year, and they're usually stimulated by 3 things: excessive amounts of calcium, lack of sleep, and stress. Now, the calcium, I love eating eggs. So unfortunately, and I like eating cheese. So I'm always consuming lots of calcium. And I don't want to give up my eggs and my cheese. So that, that be on me. The others, the stress and lack of sleep, unfortunately, I'm self-employed. So these things come hand in hand. And what I find is citrulline, being a potent vasodilator, allows me to keep migraines at bay without having to take medication, which is fantastic. And it's helped me no end in regards to my running and athletic performance. I don't see a problem with using it every day. I tend to add a little to all of the electrolytes that I drink, or I'd say all of them, at least 2 or 3 throughout the day, rather than taking a tablespoon once a day. I think more benefit is going to come from taking less more often than more less often. What I do find, if you take citrulline in higher quantities less often, it can cause gastro distress and acid reflux. So for that reason, I find less more often is best, but I don't see a problem with taking it every day.
Yeah, can I ask a question as a punter then? Because citrulline, how it works is partly it promotes nitric oxide. Does it have any impact? Is it contraindicated with lowering blood pressure medication?
Can it combat blood pressure medication?
Well, yeah, that's possibly a better way of putting it. If you take citrulline, would that mean that your medications would need to be adjusted because it will bring down your blood pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because it's
a natural way of doing it.
it's a natural way of, and again, you know, I'm not against medication, you know, and we're not doctors. We can't advise people to come off medications. But I've come off all mine. And I was on lots for high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, and many other things. But yes, it's important vasodilator, so you would need to adjust accordingly. Same as in regards to insulin. If you are a type 1 or type 2 diabetic on medication and you gravitate into this, then you need to have good insulin management. It's across the board in regards to all medications, isn't it? And we would advise to seek advice from a medical practitioner. But again, this can be counterintuitive if they don't understand the lifestyle that you live in. Yes. But unfortunately, these are things that we need to say, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're here for educational and information purposes, and you can then do further research. Like I said about that PDF, it's all referenced. It's telling you what's out there as public record. There's no opinion there. It's just what happened. You know, these companies got sued. These people were injured. This happened. This was reported in the news.
This is the information. Make your own decision, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And, you know, it's there, the whole thing. The reason I put all the links in is because I think it's quite cumbersome for people to read a whole chapter and then try and look up the references. So mine are actually, as soon as I say something, there's a reference. So you can click on it if you want. You can have a look. I also try to tell people how to read the studies and interpret them because, you know, it is really important to be able to interpret stuff rather than just take someone's word for it. And I'm including myself there. You don't have to take my word for it. You can read it for yourself. If I tell you how to read it and you read it, you think, well, there it is. It's in black and white. That actually happened. I will be absolutely honest with you. When I started researching it, I knew pretty much most of what I was looking at. But the more you dive into it, the more you get depressed because you realize just how much we're being lied to. And it is very upsetting. Right.
Do you know the worst thing about studies? I've gone off studies a lot recently. I get asked quite often on social, where's your references? And it's like, well, wait a minute. I've spent many years studying and researching. You know, I'm giving you the advice from the bits that I've learned. Why should I waste my time sending you these studies? Because people never listen. These people that have you noticed when you send the references and they just come back and call you names because they've got nothing left to come back with. The problem with studies is many studies are epidemiology studies, so they're nothing more than questionnaire studies. We should do a thing on this, I think, in regards to different types of studies, because they go further up the pecking order in regards to double-blind randomized controlled trials and then meta-analyses and so on and so forth. But you can find a study to back up any argument. And I'll give you an example as to why this has peed me off very much recently. Someone who I don't know, but is a friend of a friend who's a vegan, and they claimed that red meat causes cancer. Red meat and saturated fat causes type 2 diabetes. Yet, you know, when you ask this person, well, what is type 2 diabetes? And then it's insulin resistance. Well, out of the foods we eat, what causes the increase of insulin? You know, and it's carbohydrates. Okay, so eating carbs causes the body to release, or the pancreas to release insulin. Overexpression of this leads to type 2 diabetes. So how come red meat and saturated fat cause type 2 diabetes? Because the studies say so. Well, you've just told me. You've just told me what has led to type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, but that's what the studies say. But that's not what real world tells you. You know, no. I've reversed mine, and I was once clinically obese, type 2 diabetic, suffered with chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, arthritic pains, daily debilitating migraines would make me blind. Living this lifestyle has allowed me to come off all of these medications and reverse all of these. Yet that's not possible because a piece of paper that somebody's written, which is someone's opinion, means that what I've achieved is not possible. Every client that you work with that, you know, reverses their diabetes, and we're in the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of clients. Every client that we work with sees massive benefit, or, you know, if not a complete resolution in the issues that they come to see us with. And this happens on a daily basis. Yet it doesn't matter because this isn't what the research says. So I've kind of washed my hands of researches and referencing things recently, because someone will always come back with another study that then you've got to go back and explain to them, well, wait a minute, this is an epidemiology study. Well, what does that mean? And then, it just opens the floodgates, and it becomes incredibly frustrating, doesn't it, in order to try to educate people who seem to be not want to become educated. But yeah, it's super stressful when it comes to studies, especially the epidemiology studies. Rant over.
Yeah. Yeah, epidemiology is rubbish. It can't inform on cause and effect at all, only on associations. And I think this is the thing, apparently, when there's lots of umbrellas, it's raining. So umbrellas must cause rain. It's that ridiculous. And I think Bart uses the ice cream sales and shark attacks. More ice cream sales, there's more shark attacks. Well, yeah, that's an association, but it isn't causal. Emma has given us £4.99 and said happy Christmas, which is really great. I want to go back to what you just said about the studies. You see, this is the thing. People talk about science or evidence-based medicine. They don't talk about clinical experience. So you have to be very careful. When people say science-backed or evidence-based medicine, they're talking about studies. Clinical experience, which is being pushed to one side, is what actually happens with real people. And you're right, Richard. I mean, I was just thinking as you were talking, yeah, I could get 100 people in that reverse their type 2 diabetes by removing carbohydrates. And I'm sorry to be picky, but the actual definition of diabetes is chronically elevated blood glucose. That's actually what it is in the textbook as a diabetes specialist. So what pushes your blood glucose up high chronically, what elevates it, is carbohydrates. It's not red meat. So if you just go into like a dictionary definition, it doesn't make any sense. If you go into what real people are doing and reversing their type 2 diabetes, eating meat, doesn't make any sense. I agree with you 100%. Those studies are in there alongside the sort of things we're actually saying. So anyone says, yeah, but this is just anecdotes. Oh yeah, but although that makes sense, there's no science. They've got everything then. So Zinc 316 can go, well, look, there's everything there. And there's also, you can watch Richard's channel, you can watch Stephen's channel and see real people getting better. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people won't pay one iota, because once they've decided, that's what they've decided. But it's things like, idiots like Andrew Marr on the BBC. I hate the way this country is at the moment. It is state controlled. Andrew Marr is saying the BBC never censored me. Well, of course you were never censored. You agree with everything they say. No one's going to censor you if you just, a whipping boy or a little puppet. So they live in this world where they think, oh, no one's getting censored. I never get censored. Well, of course not, because you think the same way, because you've been indoctrinated. Anyway, right. I'm close to a rant. I don't want to do that. So a couple more brilliant super chats. Thank you so much. BB, hi guys, what's the best way please to deal with osteoporosis for mature female post chemo, and what tests are easily available? Thank you.
Eat meat.
I don't know where in the world you are. I mean, Osteo Strong, incidentally, is a science-based but evidence-based and also clinically experienced-based piece of kit. The guy that invented the X3 bar, actually, that's what he did beforehand, and he shows that you can reverse osteoporosis with resistance training and proper diet. And he's a carnivore, by the way, which is really interesting. Many medical centers uses Osteo Strong system. I have a client that's using it and getting great results. But I just put in a couple of bits there before Richard comes in with a lot more information to tell you about osteoporosis.
Yeah, fantastic. We did touch base on this earlier on the call, didn't we? Osteoporosis can be reversed, and it's, we're told that it's irreversible, but it can be reversed. We've proved it time and time again. Animal proteins. If we look at what bone is, 40% of the dry weight of bone is protein, and the rest is minerals. It's mineralized protein. And what we need in order to heal, build, and repair this, yes, we need calcium, but calcium is found in animal proteins. We need the protein itself, and we need the minerals, particularly phosphate and sodium. We need to consume adequate amounts of animal proteins. And in fact, when we looked at the studies that showed that this was possible, they split elderly people over the age of 65 with osteoporosis into 3 groups. They fed one low protein, another group moderate amount of protein, and the third group high protein. Now, the high protein wasn't even what we would class as high. I mean, it's probably low to us. But the low continued to see bone degradation. The moderate amount of protein, they saw a slow. So the degradation slowed in regards to this. And in fact, I think they may have stopped it dead in its tracks. But the higher protein group, again, just to reiterate, isn't actually that high. We wouldn't regard this as being high. They saw a complete resolution and reversal of osteoporosis. So we need to consume animal proteins. Salt, sodium is incredibly important also because sodium is directly correlated with sending calcium to the bone. K2, which is found in the animal proteins, and so on and so forth. But we need animal proteins, salt, the calcium, which is found within the animal proteins, and the phosphate. Those are the 4 things that we need in order to reverse osteoporosis. What else was in there? Post-chemo. If it's post-chemo, I'd suggest a higher fat to protein ratio. By weight, maybe 2 grams to 1. Beyond that, what tests are available? Steve, you probably know a bit more about testing, but in regards to the food, we just eat meat.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you can get DEXA scans, and you can also get blood tests when you look at things like vitamin D levels and calcium levels. But yeah, I think, you know, the post-chemo thing is important to address, because chemo does decrease your bone mineral density when you're going through it, and it does actually speed it up, and it can suppress the bone marrow function, which is one of the things that we're not really allowed to say, because chemotherapy is one of those things that Google and YouTube doesn't like you talking about. But it doesn't. You know, I've had people in rehab that have had chemotherapy, and getting their joint function back is harder, but it can still be done. Once you're over it, it can be done. So yeah, that's a great question, actually. We've got another super chat. This is very, very nice of everybody. I have many unhealthy loved ones who would never go carnivore, but wondering if they just start eating much more carnivore foods overall, do you think there would be any benefits? Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you went 70% carnivore from vegan or vegetarian, all of a sudden you'd have much more bioavailable proteins, you'd have better essential fats, you would see a difference. I mean, myself and Richard, we have this thing, well, it's Richard's baby, really, called Fat Club, which you can get on the school community. It's an extra payment because there's so much content there. It's like 8 weeks, every single day we talk about it. And in the first couple of weeks, it's not about going carnivore, it's just taking things like bread and potatoes out. And people get huge benefits just taking bread and potatoes out. Just changing those 2 things. I mean, they are 2 of the worst culprits. You would not believe it, actually, the difference that you can get just in the first couple of weeks. And Richard runs that face-to-face, and also we have it online. And it's fabulous, isn't it? I mean, so yeah, that's a great question. But yes, they would definitely see some benefits, even going partially carnivore.
Yeah, we covered this in the school group last week, didn't we? In regards to family members who would not gravitate into a ketogenic or carnivore-based lifestyle, but you don't even need to use those terms. The Fat Club or the Healthy Living Club, which is available in school, and we'll get a link popped into the comments, because Stephen and I are live in there in 7 minutes for another 30 minutes in our school group. And we touched base on this last week. Basically, you know, one of the things that I teach is I teach healthy living. I don't teach keto or carnivore or anything else. I teach optimal health and healthy living. And in order to achieve this, there are a number of things we can do, like removing the compounds that are causing the most damage. And for me, these 2 compounds are going to be seed oils and grains. If you can remove grains and seed oils from your diet, you are going to be exponentially healthier and fitter. And we explain why in the school group, and why grains are damaging to the intestines, and why they cause autoimmune disease, and why the oxidized omega-6 and seed oils are detrimental to your health. These are easy sells to family members. You can show them these things. You can easily convert them away from grains and seed oils without even mentioning ketosis or carnivore lifestyles. You don't have to mention anything. You just highlight the fact that these compounds are detrimental, that the body is made of proteins and fats. Therefore, by default, by consuming less of the grains and less of the seed oils, then we naturally consume more of our real foods. And we showed a shopping list, which maybe we'll put on again in the school group, Steve. I think it's I think we'll pop that back up when we're live in there. The school group shopping list. It shows a list of foods that anyone will tell you are healthy. Nobody can argue that everything on this list is healthy because they're real foods. So this, for me, is the easiest way to guide family members and friends into a better way of living. But that is a fantastic course. If anybody wants to gift that to a family member, I think that's a fantastic gift to pass on to a family member in regards to education and health and well-being, or even gift them the school group for a month or two to join us and ask some questions.
Yeah, and I put a link to the school group in the chat if you want to join, because like Richard says, in about half an hour, in about 5 minutes, we'll be doing another half hour of live question and answers as we're doing here with the members, which would be really great. So if we haven't got to your question tonight, I do apologize for not doing that. But we try to give you full and frank answers. Always get here early. You can always post a question. Once it's up on our YouTube channels, you can put a question in before it even starts. So, that's fabulous. The super chat's coming in thick and fast at the end. This is firstly from Lynn. There's a £5. Thank you, Lynn. That is really kind of you. Really appreciated around Christmas time. And we've got B. Senning. Opinion on eating around circadian rhythm. Well, I'm guessing what you mean is, eating after dark, or eating before the sunrise, or eating at a very odd time. We're great believers in you can do everything you can to make your life optimal, but sometimes reality strikes. If you're in a job where you're out in the morning from 7 o'clock and you don't get back until 7 o'clock in the evening, and it's one of those jobs where you just don't get a chance to eat decent food, and then the only way you're going to get a chance to eat decent food is to do it even though the sun went down at 4 o'clock, like in England at the moment, you're probably better to have decent food out of the circadian rhythm than you are to try and eat really at work, under fluorescent lights. It's very difficult. In the real world, it's difficult. My answer to this is always go as close as possible to nature as you possibly can, realistically, without ruining everyone else's life around you and your own social life. That's all you can do. That is all you can do. Look at us, Richard and I. Do you really honestly think at 7 o'clock in the evening or 8 o'clock in the evening we should be on a screen with all the lights on? No, of course we shouldn't. But that's how we get our message across, and that's when people can watch us. If we decided to do it midday on a Monday, no, we wouldn't have 171 people in the room. It'd be just completely pointless. So, we live in the real world. But yeah, absolutely. If you can fit in with your circadian rhythms or as close as possible, definitely do that.
Yeah, spot on. Completely agree.
Thank you very much. So I think we're coming up to the last couple of minutes. So yeah, if you want to go onto the school group, I put the link in the description, in the chat. Sorry, I'll do it again and just show you what happens if you go there. I'll just show you the screen, and then you know exactly what you're letting yourself in for, which is some really good content and some really good things. So when you get into the school group, you can go straight to the calendar. Down in the calendar there is the question and answer session at 8. So sometimes we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 live streams. It's coming up to Christmas, so at least 3 a week. And next year, I think we're going to do more. There's a classroom here with lots and lots and lots of courses that you can do. So that's pretty nice. And you can have free ebooks and all those sort of things. You can join the community, which is here. And there's loads and loads of questions and lots and lots of answers from members, which is really happening. And then things like the meetings, there are playbacks. So you can look at playbacks from last week when we did a Monday one, we did a Sunday one, and there's transcripts, so you don't have to take notes. So hopefully that's really handy. Love to see you over at school, won't we, Richard?
Yeah, I'm just looking. There's some fantastic questions lined up in this, which I'm hoping, you know, some of these the people who have asked, if they gravitate over there, we can get into some of these, because I think they're some fantastic questions, or we can answer these next week if they're in early enough. But yeah, some brilliant questions. School group is amazing, and yeah, I can't wait to get started over there. So I will see you over there shortly.
Yeah, let me just do some screenshots of those questions in case we do see those people over there, which would be really good. But also our own members will have questions. So we do try to cover everything, but we basically haven't got the time to do everything. Yeah, so yeah, there is some great questions about
Some
the gut
fantastic
microbiome and blood pressure, and oh wow, yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to a lymph system. Right, okay. Thanks everybody on YouTube. It's been really nice. Hope you've enjoyed this hour. We'll either see you in 2 weeks, because it's Christmas next Sunday. Make sure you're not on the naughty list so you get your presents. And I'm not unhappy about saying Merry Christmas to people, because that's what I do. If it offends people, I do apologize. You need to get out more if it does.
Yeah. Thank you all. Merry Christmas and see you soon.